Well, we're doing a series on being at peace, and this is the seventh one that we're doing on this. Just a bit of a recap. I mean, in the first week we looked at the idea that in order to be at peace, our being needs to be peaceful. You know, the essence of who we are. That's what we looked at to begin with. We can't control the chaos that goes on in the world, but we can only bring ourselves into the peace of the present moment and deal with each moment from the perspective of the peace within us as those moments arrive. We then look more at the chaos of the world and, you know, generally the lack of peace out there, and really explored the way that human consciousness has evolved to a point where the smartness of our technology is not going to help us have a more peaceful world. What's needed now is not technical advancement, but the development of the wisdom to see the true nature of reality and respond to it appropriately. And that's through ethical, moral, and spiritual development. You know, that's how we're going to survive. We looked at truth and an age where there are alternative facts. We looked at resting in peace, being at peace with our death while we're still alive, and therefore being at peace with life by having death journey with us on that particular journey. And in the last session, we looked at the stages that we individually go through as we inwardly move towards being at peace. And we use meditation to illustrate that. And then actually last week that I was here, we talked about war and how to move towards some sort of intention of world peace. That's sort of the direction that we've taken. And if you want to catch up on any of those, if you go onto our website and go onto the Sunday service, it says current courses, and you click on that, and it'll take you to a page that has all the talks from those courses, so you can catch up on that. And I've called this week's theme Making Peace, because I think that peace is something that we ourselves have to make. In one of the Developing Consciousness courses that we're doing recently, some of you here are doing that, we were talking about the fact that the true state of enlightenment is being at peace with what is. You can come up with all sorts of definitions of what enlightenment is, but really, when it comes down to it, it is the great peace, being okay with whatever is. And the extent of our enlightenment is characterized by our ability to be at peace with our circumstances. It's easy to be at peace when our circumstances are peaceful. But the true test of our enlightenment is to be at peace during testing times. You only really find out how enlightened you really are when testing times come along. That's when you find it out. You think you're doing well along the path, and then something hits you. Could be just someone cutting you up on the motorway, and you just go to pieces. And then you know how far your learning has really taken you. Thich Nhat Hanh says, "If I could not be peaceful in the midst of danger, then the kind of peace I might have in simpler times is meaningless." If I can't be peaceful in times of danger, then the sort of peace I have in simpler times is meaningless. And he goes on to say, if I couldn't find peace in the midst of difficulty, I knew I would never find real peace. And, you know, classic example of that from last week when Heather was talking about Etty Hillesum. There is someone who died in Auschwitz who was able to make peace with her circumstances and create an experience of peace that enabled her to take herself through. So we have to make peace rather than expect peace to come to us just because we meditate or we turn up to the chapel, or because we're nice people. Those things help. But unless you've really made the effort to make peace, then it all goes out the window when we're challenged. Okay, so what do I mean by making peace? Well, I think the truth is that we have to make peace with absolutely everything. And often, it's one thing at a time, but it is everything. First of all, for example, we have to make peace with our minds. And there's a difference between having a peaceful mind and making peace with our minds. When you make peace with your mind, you make peace with the peaceful bit, but also the bit that is unpeaceful a lot of the time. You have to make peace with the unpeaceful bit of your mind. You have to acknowledge that your mind is often out of control. And you have to make peace with that. It might present as being peaceful, but when your partner begins to make that noise when they're eating, then, thank you very much, then all our peacefulness goes out the window. So we have to make peace with all the fads and foibles that our particular minds have. We have to be okay with them. To be at peace with the fact that sometimes we get out of control, that our minds literally go off on their own. We have to make peace with that. Literally, to bring ourselves to being okay with the sort of minds that we've got. And not only our minds, but we also have to make peace with our bodies. How they are, how they look, what's going wrong with them, how they sometimes don't work. We literally have to make our peace with what our bodies are, what we've been given. And that can be hard. There's a temptation to do a lot of work to make our bodies. Often people spend a great deal of money trying to be at peace with their bodies. In fact, we have to make peace, as I said, with absolutely everything. We have to make peace with the way that other people are. Our families, particularly our families. Our partners, our spouses, our parents, our siblings. We have to make peace with all of them. That is, and it's the difference, we have to make peace with the way that they are. Now, it may be that we cannot create a peaceful relationship with them, because in order to do that, it takes both of you to be able to create that peace. But what you can do is be at peace with who they are, even if it's not who you want them to be. To be at peace with who they are, even if it's not who you want them to be. And be at peace with the unpeaceful relationship that you have with them. I don't think that's being resigned. It's knowing that we can't change them at that particular moment, but we're at peace with it and open to the possibility of it changing in the future. And then, as I said before, we have to be at peace with our circumstances, the etihilism thing, what comes at us from the world. And that, again, takes work. And this is the work of enlightenment, to make peace with what is. It's Byron Katie's whole perspective is on this. Not to accept not to accept it all blindly without trying to change it, but be at peace with whatever disadvantages we feel and work from it, work from that state, peaceful state. And you can see this, from this, that the work of enlightenment is hard. It's a difficult road that leads to peace. But it really is the only work worth doing. We think that in order to get enlightened, we just have to be spiritual and stuff. But actually, this is the work that needs doing. Making peace with our minds, with our bodies, with other people, with circumstances, with the earth. In our book club, the Aspen Chapel's got a book club. We were studying Matthew Fox's The Coming of the Cosmic Christ, and incidentally, the next book we're going to be studying is Paramahansa Yogananda's Autobiography of a Yogin. If you're interested in that, then you can just join up, let me or Justin know, and that's what we're going to be studying. But in the Matthew Fox book, there's a passage which says, peace on earth cannot happen without peace with the earth and peace among all earthly creatures. For humans to be part of the peace process, to cease being warriors against Mother Earth, a great awakening must take place. And he goes on to say that awakening, I'm convinced, will be an awakening of our mystical consciousness, and it's already underway. The point here is that another thing that we humans have to do is to make peace with the earth. And it is making peace with the earth is a relational thing. We do things to the earth, to the planet, and the planet responds. We cut down trees, we send CO2 into the atmosphere, and the earth talks back to us with the way that our climate begins to change, with the loss of species, with adverse weather conditions. We're in relationship with the earth, and we have to make peace with it. We have to listen to it, and we have to act accordingly. And it's a huge task. But the work's there for us to do, and some people are already doing it. But once again, it's part of the work of making peace. That deep peace, an unshakable peace that is the mark of enlightenment and is the work set before us. And I've said this before, but this peace is actually what people want. And in most cases, people don't identify this as their ultimate goal. They have no idea that this is really what they're seeking. When they're off after things, they think they want this or that, or a car, or relationships, or what they really want is that experience of deep peace. And they go off down blind alleys in the hope that what they're seeking will bring them the contentment that they're looking for. And what brings that contentment is that deep peace. And you have to know that you're looking for it. Knowing that you're looking for it is a big move in terms of one's relationship with life. And you have to work out how to get it. And that is the work of spirituality, is you work out how to get that. And that, Heather was mentioning, that is the cultivation of a sensitive and rewarding relationship with eternal truth and love. That is that cultivation. That is what we're doing in that. Enlightenment is that deep peace. Even people who've had a peak experience of unity of consciousness say that what they're left with is a sense of deep peace with their world. But it takes work. And, we're doing that work here, creating peace with our minds, our bodies, our circumstances, with other people, with life, with the earth, so that whatever comes our way, we're able to be at peace as we meet it. The real aim being to be at peace with whatever comes our way. Those disciples in Jesus' boat were not able to make peace with the storm. Jesus did. He was asleep. The storm raged and Jesus slept. The disciples rushed about saying, "Save us." And Jesus rebuked them, as well as rebuking the chaos. And his peace, the peace he made, was greater than both the fear of the disciples and the chaos of the weather. And we have to be able to rebuke that fear in ourselves and our anger as it comes our way to get to that place of peace. And by doing that, we can create peace around us in our circumstances, as Jesus created that peace with the weather. It's a sort of analogy with creating peace in your circumstances. The peace that we have within us is the peace that will flow out from us and create peace in others around us. But we have to create it within us first, and that's the work. And that's how you create a more peaceful world. We have to be able to do what Jesus did and speak with the authority of peace. We have to be able to speak with the authority of peace. And you could see some world leaders who've done that. You know, Gandhi speaks with the authority of peace. Nelson Mandela spoke with the authority of peace. They created peace from the work they'd done on themselves. Mandela said he wanted peace for his country more than revenge. He said, "As I walked out the door toward the gate that would lead to my freedom, I knew if I didn't leave my bitterness and hatred behind, I'd still be in prison. Instead of hatred and revenge, we choose reconciliation and nation building." And we take on that work too in our own small way. And as we build peace within ourselves, so we build a greater peace in the world. But it does start with us having compassion on ourselves and being at peace with who we really are. You know, when you're in meditation, you think, oh, God, I can't get my mind to set. You have to be at peace with that. Be at peace with being a, crap meditation person. And that's okay. We have to be at peace with whatever, we're good at or not good at, working towards being able to respond to whatever comes our way. And that's the enlightenment comes through peace. And of course, one of the key things we have to get at peace with is our wants and desires. They drive us so much that I'll quote from Meister Eckhart that the meditative state is wanting for nothing, willing nothing, and knowing nothing. That applies in our lives. We have to be at peace with those desperate wants that we have and not be driven by them. Finally, and this is probably the most important one, and this is finally, so you can relax. You can make peace with the fact that I am about to end. So, finally, and most important of all, we have to make peace with our feelings. And really, this is the big one. It's probably the most difficult because we have feelings about absolutely everything. And often it's our feelings that drive us. Our minds, when you hear that chewing from the person next to you, your mind, feelings happen in our bodies and, people act out of those feelings and we feel deeply and our feelings often shape our attitudes. And we have to make peace with them and not try and change them. I had a classic example of this the other day where I was waiting for developing consciousness to start. And one of my worst moments in life, it's not one of my worst, but it's pretty, is waiting for people to arrive at events. And you think, when's everybody going to turn up? I'm going to start at 5:30. They've told me I've got to start at 5:30, but no one's here. And I could feel myself, this awful, and I was in this is last week's developing consciousness course. And I was feeling all these feelings, oh God, no one's going to be here. I did think, because I'd written this down, well, I have to make peace with this. I'm making peace with this. I'm really pissed off. The way no one's here. And then I got the fact that actually it wasn't just making peace with my attitude. I had to make peace with the feeling that I had. And the feeling was of, abandonment. I felt cross. I felt dissatisfied. And all these feelings were going on. And actually, I consciously made peace with those feelings. And it made a complete difference to the attitude that I had. I was okay. And of course, they all turned up then. The moment I'd made it, they all came along. We had a decent-sized group in the end. But it's a small example. It's the same when I'm waiting for you lot to appear on a Sunday. 2 people are here at 25 past. And I go down to the kitchen. I say, will you come up? Because then double the congregation. And they go, what? And so making peace with your feelings is the big thing. And the thing you have to do, in order to make peace with your feelings, you have to go into your feelings. You have to be aware of them. And a lot of the time, we're not even, we say we're not aware of our feelings, but we're not of our thoughts, but we're not aware of our feelings. And we just run out of what our body's telling us to do. To become aware of your feelings, say, I am feeling cross, or I am feeling fearful right now. And I'm going to be okay with that feeling. I'm going to have that feeling of crossness and fearfulness. And I'm going to move through that. And I'm just going to see what comes my way. And the moment you own that, the moment you have that, the moment you make peace with that, then it changes. And I'm sure that Susan the Potion is going to talk about that when she comes in. I'm going to talk about this a bit later on. But feelings is the big one. Being okay, making peace. And you can see that is the work of life. It is literally making peace with everything. Making peace with our minds, making peace with other people, our partners, our children. It is a constant work that we do. And, stuff like meditation and coming to chapel and hearing, it helps. But it's not the real business. The real business is day to day. And we think, well, of course it's day to day, but this is the work. It is making peace with it as we go along. You have to be okay with things and not be driven by them. To know that they're there, but to make peace with them. You have to let them be there without feeling the need to get rid of the feelings. And that is what it is to be truly contented. Our work here is about making peace with ourselves and everything else around us. If we have a problem, then one of the options is to make peace with the problem and then go and solve the problem, having made peace with it. It's only when we're at peace with ourselves that we can make peace with the world.